History is full of mysterious stories that captivate us. Whether they are stories of international intrigue involving major players, or tales of everyday people who find themselves in extraordinary and sometimes horrific situations, that element of not knowing every detail enthralls us, driving us to seek out the answers to what happened. Sometimes the most mysterious stories actually do have answers. Though the twists and turns may lead to sometimes sad conclusions, we can at least feel closure knowing the answers to once unanswerable questions. If you like true stories of the macabre, strange, and paranormal, then please click on that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you can be notified every time a new episode of Grim Events is uploaded. Without further ado, I give you 5 solved mysteries. Number 1. The apparent poisoning of a child proved to be a medical condition. In 1989, Patty Stallings was detained under allegations that she had poisoned her son Ryan Stallings. Stallings had her son admitted to the hospital when she noticed he had been ill. After running tests, doctors concluded he had high levels of a substance known as ethylene glycol in his blood. This compound is most commonly found in antifreeze. Stallings and her husband were questioned, but they were both profusely denied allegations of poisoning their son. After 2 weeks, Ryan was released, but placed in foster care, where Stallings and her husband were allowed to visit him for only an hour every week. But during the 6th week, when Stallings spent a short time alone with her son, he became sick again and was rushed to the hospital. Doctors believe he was allegedly poisoned again. The evidence allowed police to make an arrest, and 2 days later, Ryan died. Despite Stallings' claims of innocence, doctors and police were adamant that she was responsible. While awaiting trial in prison, Stallings had her second child, who also became sick and had symptoms similar to Ryan's. The baby was diagnosed with a rare condition known as methylmalonic acidemia, which allows the body to produce a compound known as propionic acid, similar to ethylene glycol. Despite this finding, Stallings was still convicted on first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison in 1991. However, a couple of years later, the charges against Stallings were dismissed when renowned scientists investigating the case revealed their findings. They deemed her innocent because Ryan also had methylmalonic acidemia. Number 2. A group of missing German tourists relied on outdated directions in Death Valley. On October 21, 1996, a Death Valley park ranger spotted a passenger van stuck in a canyon, covered in a thick layer of dust. A quick call to the California Highway Patrol revealed that the van had been rented by a group of German tourists who never returned the van at the scheduled time back in July of that year. A missing persons hunt began for the 2 adults and 2 children. Investigators searched the nearby area by foot, horseback, and helicopter, finding nothing but one lone empty beer can that matched some of the other beer cans that had been inside the van. No tracks or any other helpful hints were ever found. Records of nearby hotels and visitor logbooks were checked, but yielded no clues to the German family's whereabouts after July 23rd. Temperatures in Death Valley can rise above a deadly 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and with no clues to follow, the search was eventually called off. Not until 13 years later did 2 hikers in the Mojave Desert find human remains, which tests later revealed belonged to the missing German tourist. Experts theorized the family relied too heavily on their copy of the Death Valley National Monument Museum text, which showed routes to various passes and exits out of the park, but that had been out of date and didn't acknowledge road conditions. Upon striking out on various routes and blowing 3 of 4 tires, the lost tourists may have tried to hike to China Lake Naval Weapons Center, which, according to their booklet, was about 8 miles away. They never made it. Number 3. A perplexing note led police to discover pots of body parts in a kitchen. In New Orleans, On an October night in 2006, the body of Zachary Bowen, a 28-year-old Iraqi war veteran, was found on top of a parking garage. In his pocket, police found his dog tags, a suicide note, and a key to his girlfriend's apartment. The note read, "This is not accidental. I had to take my own life to pay for the one that I took. If you send a patrol car to 826 North Rampart, you will find the dismembered corpse of my girlfriend Addie in the oven, on the stove, and in the fridge, and a full signed confession from myself. Signed, Zach Bowen." When police arrived at Addie Hall's apartment, that is exactly what they found. Her head was in a pot on the stove, as were her hands and feet, and her legs and arms were covered with seasoning salt on a roasting pan in the oven. Upon further searches of the scene, police found Bowen's journal, in which he calmly described how he had strangled Hall to death and, not surprised that he had no remorse for the act, decided that it was time to leave this world. Oh, and FYI, the apartment is still available to be rented for any who is interested. Number 4. Residents from a Japanese coastal towns go missing. One mystery that has been evoking political tensions between Japan and North Korea for years surrounds the kidnappings of Japanese citizens from coastal towns. From 1977 to 1983, Japanese citizens were disappearing under incredibly strange circumstances. In 2002, the mystery of where the citizens disappeared to was finally solved. Former North Korean leader Kim Jong-il admitted that North Korea was responsible for kidnapping 13 Japanese coastal town residents during a political event. However, the Japanese government claims that North Korea actually abducted 17 citizens, not 13, and that 883 missing persons cases have shown links to North Korea. Number 5. A dingo stole my baby. In August 1980, Michael and Lindy Chamberlain of Australia and their 3 children, Aiden, Reagan, and 9-week-old Azaria, went camping in Uluru in the Northern Territory. The camping trip ended in tragedy when they discovered that Azaria was missing from the campsite. A bereft Lindy told authorities that a dingo, which is a wild Australian dog, had taken her baby from the tent. Though the medical examiner initially accepted Lindy's story, other authorities remained unconvinced. Instead, they detained, convicted, and imprisoned Lindy for the murder of her daughter, even though Azaria's body was nowhere to be found. What happened to Azaria? Azaria's body was never discovered, but a key piece of evidence has. In 1986, a tourist fell from Uluru, a large rock in the area, while hiking. The search for the tourist turned up the dress of Azaria that she had been wearing when she disappeared, and it was found right near a dingo den. Lindy's original story, it seemed, was correct. In 2012, Azaria's death certificate was finally changed to state death by dingo. Okay, that's it, boys and girls. That is 5 solved mysteries that we can knock off the list. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your day.